Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth, the light of the world," right? And that's the part of the identity of the church until the end of the age, when the kingdom is consummate and the bride is collectively and consummately gathered together. The church has a mission. That mission has been given to us by Christ. It's not that, in a certain sense, the church has a mission. Maybe a better way to put it is God has a church for his mission, right? And we are to be faithful, at least insofar as we're able to carry that out. And in the current context, as we've been talking about, there are certain challenges, and we've tried to put together a list of speakers to come and to speak into some of those challenges in a way that may help the church see this is a great time to be the church. Like, there are challenges, right? There's opposition, there's darkness. This is a great time to be the church. It's a great time to be reformed and committed to the means of grace, the doctrine of the church, the beautiful things that we have stood for historically. It's a great time, not in a sinful way to be proud, but in a biblical way, like to be proud of the things that God has given to us. Thankful maybe is a better word, but to let the light of the gospel shine through the work of the church. So the Center for Missions and Evangelism had a soft launch back in October at a nearby church not far from the seminary. This event is our hard launch and our first effort to begin taking it to the streets in the sense of hopefully being a blessing to a local congregation. Covenant OPC in St. Augustine that I pastored for about 14 years is co-sponsoring the conference with us. And some of the speakers are coming. Some are coming from the PCA, some are coming from the URCNA, and some are coming from the OPC. All of our speakers come from one of those three denominations. And we've got a beautiful location.
We might have a CanRef professor at least, right?
We do. That's right. Ariane de Visser is coming.
Yeah. I didn't know if he was in the CanRef denomination. I presume he is, being a professor there.
That's right. Don't tell him. I forgot that for a second. But yes. Ariane, who I know well and just think the world of, really fantastic Wonderful. Churchman, former missionary to South Africa, post-apartheid narrative, working with indigenous peoples, and will bring back lessons from that mission field existence and experience that will hopefully speak into some of the challenges that the church likely finds itself in now in fairly analogous ways.
So let's speak about some of the subjects that the speakers, I'll just list the speakers just for people so they can be interested. Of course, Mark Beach, who teaches at in Mid-America, been teaching dogmatics there for many years. Timothy Brindle, many will know. John Curry from Westminster, Terrence Dickerson, Terry Johnson, Darby Strickland, Mark Vanderhart, Ariane de Visser, and of course, our guest today, Mr. Eric Watkins. So that's quite a lineup of speakers here for this inaugural event. It's really exciting to see the breadth of voices and the topics that are going to be addressed.
Yeah, it's very Tolkien-esque, Fellowship of the Nine.
There's no Bifer and Bofer, Dwalin, Balin. I'm reading The Hobbit with my kids in the evenings, and so that's on the mind.
Yeah. Would it be okay if I just gave an overview of
Please do. I'd love that.
Talk about?
Yeah.
Okay. So going, I think, alphabetically. So Mark Beach from Mid-America will talk about how Jesus reaches the marginalized. Again, just thinking about, how do we go about reaching those who are not simply outside our church, but maybe not the easiest to engage. That could be from homeless people to scenarios like you see the woman at the well. But how does Jesus reach the marginalized? Timothy Brindle, who's a PhD in Old Testament at Westminster, Philadelphia, and a minister in the PCA, is going to do something on a biblical theology of race, tracing the Bible's theological vocabulary as it attached to race and identity. And he's also, this is going to be fun. We're going to have some psalm singing, some a cappella psalm singing. It'll be really pretty at the concert. And over dinner, we're actually going to hear Timothy Brindle, after his presentation, do a few of his Christian hip hop songs.
Yeah.
So one of my goals for the conference is to teach a bunch of pasty white people how to clap in time. It's going to be a challenge, but I'm up for it.
In some of these circles, I'm considered swarthy.
He may have more rhythm than many I've met. So John Curry is going to talk about leadership in a context when few will follow, and just the challenge of not simply pastoral leadership, but church leadership in general. This has been a hard time to lead the last couple of years, and John Curry could be a good guy on that subject. Terrence Dickerson, who's one of my ruling elders from Covenant OPC in St. Augustine, will speak on what it's like to be a theologically conservative Black man who, on the one hand, does not consider himself to be woke in the sense that's common and often understood, but has a real concern sensitivity for the church to think rightly about race relationships and how we can find our identity in the gospel and in the church. So
It's
I think
important to
Terrence will
bring nuance there. I'm thankful that they're going to address that, because this day and age, there's such a bifurcation. It's so binary in the sense of, you're either woke in whatever sense, but let's just take it as far left as we want to take it. You're either woke and understand and have a sensitivity to race, or you have no sensitivity to race whatsoever, and you're opposed to it and you're a racist. So bringing some good reformed nuance to this discussion is going to be really significant. No doubt Timothy will bring some of that in as well with his biblical theology of race, and then Terrence can apply it perhaps more to the contemporary situation.
Yeah, and Terrence really is the guy for it. You said it really well. You're either woke or you're racist, and it's almost as though we only allow those binary and unhelpful categories. I think someone like Terrence will bring a good bit of balance. He's also just a really beautiful individual, great story, real servant, real heart for the church. There are a few men on the planet I respect more than Terrence Dickerson, so he will be fantastic. Terry Johnson from IPC in Savannah, Georgia, a real fine churchman, is going to speak on the subject of Christian identity. He has a book, Who Am I? And Christian identity in an age of confusion and plasticity will basically be his subject. Darby Strickland will be one of our, I think, heavier hitters in the sense of bringing something just really potent and powerful. But how do we recognize and address abuse in the church? What is abuse? What isn't abuse? Those are things that she is going to get into. Mark Vanderhart is going to do a biblical theology of world mission coming out of Genesis 12, which I think will be helpful and edifying, just straight up, how do we use our Bibles as we think about all this stuff, and how does the church find herself in the big story, the great drama of God's redemption. I mentioned Arion's lecture, Lessons from the Mission Field, Post-Apartheid South Africa, missionary, and things that his experience on the mission field may bring and speak into the church today. And then I'm going to speak on the mission of the church, and at least my perception, and I know people will disagree with this, but I stand on my own feet. But what I would perceive as a bit of mission drift. We wrestled with using the term in an age of distraction. In my view, the last couple of years between COVID and social justice, we've talked about a lot of things other than the gospel. Pulpits, pastoral visits, Facebook, all the social media stuff. There's been a lot of stuff that's pulled us away from talking about the gospel. I'm not trying to render those things unimportant or, altogether bad. That's not my point. But the question is, what is the mission of the church, biblically speaking? How does the Bible address those things? And, how does Paul, in particular, resist going down the trail to the left or the right, addressing good things in order to focus on the best thing of the gospel itself? So those are the speakers. We've got fantastic meals lined up for the conference. $25 registration fee, which is really just enough to cover the meals and give people, when you give people things for free, they sometimes wonder if they're worth that much. So we didn't just want to give it away, but we figured $25 was modest enough to hopefully even get a few very frugal Orthodox Presbyterians to show up.
Did you say food? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I should mention it's the conference location is literally a half mile from the beach, and the closest hotels are like walking distance from the Atlantic Ocean. And so late January in Florida, only a fool would stay home and not at least really try to come to this conference.